My name is Adam Carter, and what I'm about to present for you is my demo of the Board Game Twitter Collection app that I've designed. It's built on Apache, Hadoop, and Spark. My REST service implementation is done using Java and Spring. The console you see here in front of you, it contains an interactive launch of the REST service. So as the demo proceeds, you can kind of watch as work will scroll in the background, debug and logging information to indicate exactly what's happening. So we're going to begin by launching our first query, which is a report on the most popular locations for gamers. This query uses both a Google Map image to plot the top 25 locations, and then a table to show us the locations ranked by order, and then how many users were reported in those locations. As you can see, the map is fully interactive. Users might use a query like this to try to determine where the most popular locations are, cities are. If they're traveling and want to find a board game club or board game activities, this would give them a pretty good clue of which are sort of the largest areas for board gamers, at least as far as presence on Twitter goes. Now let's begin to launch query number 2. This query is going to give us the most popular users by our 5 predefined user categories across the provided date range. In this case, I'm going to be looking at the entire year of 2016 as gathered. Now this is going to display a series of charts, one by user categories. So you can see the top table here indicates board game designers. The table below it indicates board game publishers. And it's measuring 2 different attributes. The columns in blue indicate the average number of likes and retweets per tweet, and then the red indicates the total number of tweets from the user's timeline that we were able to gather. Now, some tweets, like community members, are very different, where some community members tend to be much more popular. So it's kind of interesting to see the popularity among the different groups and to kind of gauge the relative sizes. Of course, the graphing algorithm we use here is a double y-axis Google bar graph with all that information. Let's move on to query 3. This query is about the most popular hashtags used by board game Twitter users in a given month range, or a given date range. In this case, we're going to be looking at the month of October. So what this shows you is, using pie chart, the first table shows us the most popular hashtags, the top 10 used hashtags, ranked just among those top 10. The second table below that gives you a picture of those hashtags usage relative to all other hashtags used during that time frame. So as you can see, in the month of October, the most popular hashtag was Spiel16, which is the Essen Spiel Fair Twitter handle. Now I'm going to change the date range to look from July through August. This is going to allow me to look at the time range leading up to the largest board game convention in the US, and this query has not been cached. So as you can see here from the console, we're actually running the Spark job based on the provided input. So it's going to take a few moments to complete processing to generate its results, and when it finishes processing this query, it'll return via our AJAX call, and now we can see our UI was updated. There are now different hashtags representing this time frame. So that's what query 3 is about. It's allowing me to look at the most used hashtags among gamers during a given time frame. Now let's move on to query 4. This is the frequency of hashtag use by user group. So again, we're going to provide a date range, and we're also providing a hashtag that we want to look at in specific. So in this case, we're going to look at the time period revolving from July through the end of August again, and we're going to look for the hashtag Gen Con, which again is the largest board gaming convention in the US that took place August 4th through 7th. I represent this in 2 line graphs. The first one represents all of our official users, our designers, our publishers, our reviewers, and the actual convention handles. And then the lower graph represents Twitter, our community members, and how they're talking about things. Now, what's interesting about this graph is you can see from this trend that tweet volume from publishers and reviewers starts to spike a few days before the convention, whereas on the community user graph, you can see that their usage of the hashtag begins to spike after the convention has started and as it's beginning to wind down. Another interesting note is that you can see that designers tend to go almost silent during this time frame because they're so busy trying to sell their games. So this gives an interesting insight into how both official board gaming entities and community members use hashtags. Finally, query number 5 is about plotting the most recent tweets for a given search term. So in this case, we provide a term. I'm going to use a board game called Terraforming Mars as my search criteria. I'm going to ask for the most recent 50 tweets regarding that search term. So what you see here is a graph that we can stretch, zoom in, zoom out. We can rotate back and forth to look at this timeline, and it is color-coded by user group. Now, we can move back and forth. This kind of gives us an idea not only who is talking about the tweets, but when they're being talked about, how frequently is it being discussed. One other interesting feature that I implemented through here was allowing you to click on the individual item and it would show you the Twitter cutout for the individual tweet in question here that we recorded. This would allow you to link to media or video images or whatever else they might have actually attached in the tweet. So if I wanted to go see what my favorite podcaster was saying about this topic, I could look at somebody like No Pun Included and see what they had to say. So that's it. That's all I have to show for this demo. Thank you.